Hello and welcome back to the Irish Racing YouTube channel. Another episode of Formscan in association with Tony Bet, and delighted to be joined this weekend by Donn McClean to preview lots of different action. We're going to Sandown, Aintree, Navan and Cork as well on Sunday. So plenty to get stuck into this weekend on. It's pretty wall-to-wall action, isn't it?
It is, yeah. No, it's great, Emma, and it's all over the place as well. As you say, good racing at Ascot, good racing at Aintree on Saturday, Navan as well on Saturday, and yeah, cracking Hilly Way Chase at Cork on Sunday. So no, I mean, like as we said before, Emma, these weekends, like these weekends leading up to Christmas, kind of from mid or early November, they're just really good weekends on both sides of the Irish Sea. It's really deep national hunt racing, and I guess we're getting to find out more and more about different horses as we go along. Particularly, I guess, last year's Novices going into open company, which we had in the John Durkin Chase, but also how, last season's hurdlers have progressed on to fences. And yeah, no, it's just a really interesting time of year.
Yeah, and plenty of good clashes this weekend as well. If you kind of saw it, we were mentioning the John Durkin off air there, and we'll be talking about the Hilly Way towards the end of the show, but that looks like a really good clash as well of the 2 mile chasers, mostly from the Willie Mullins stable, admittedly, but still a really good contest. But I think we're going to start off with the UK stuff on Saturday first. We'll go to Sandown for the 150, the Henry VIII Novice Chase, 2 mile Novice Chase, Grade 1. It's a trappy little contest, I thought, Don, but the bookmakers have Le Sud a clear favourite in there for the Skeltons. He's even money, maybe a shade of odds on with some bookmakers. Down memory lane then next for Gordon Elliott. He's part of a dual Gordon Elliott target at this one. Touch Me Not as well for Jordan Gainford is in there as well. And Rubo, one for Paul Nichols, probably maybe one of the outsiders of the field relatively, I suppose. But Le Sud, Don, he's probably one of the big British hopes, I suppose, for the Novice Chasers this year. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, no, it's a small enough field, Emma, for the Henry VIII, but it's a really interesting race. The fact that Gordon's sending over both Down Memory Lane and Touch Me Not, that's fascinating. And it's been mentioned before, that's probably influenced by the fact that the Grade 1 Novice Chase is no more at Leopardstown, which, I'm not sure that's a great move. But anyway,
look, Willie was actually mentioning that as well.
He did, yeah. And even when it was announced last year, when the change was announced, I was kind of thinking, well, where are those horses going to go? Like, where are those 2 mile Novice Chasers going to go? I know you've got the Limerick race over, but that's over 2.5 miles on soft ground usually. So I think I know, and maybe it got small fields, and I haven't gone through the ratings bands, and if it deserves its grade one status, but I think there's a need for something there. And like we saw, the Royal Bondherd was demoted from Grade 1 to Grade 2, so maybe that would have been a better solution than removing it completely. But anyway.
It'll be a big push for these ones in the UK anyway, because I think Ballyburn's probably likely to go to the UK for his race over the Christmas period as well. So I suppose our loss is their gain in that.
And look, you can't have like every race can't be a Grade 1 race. Of course, that's for sure. And I think there are probably too many Grade 1 races in general. Look, this is a different. I've gone off on a tangent here, but I just think that you need these stepping stones to take us through the season. And anyway, I thought that was a good race at Christmas, and it normally got at least 1 or 2, really, really high class novices. Anyway, look, Sandown's or Leopardstown's lost to Sandown's game because Touch Me Not and Down Memory Lane, they're both going over, and like Touch Me Not, it's less than 2 weeks since he won the Craddockstown, so it's a quick enough turnaround. Down Memory Lane, it's 3 weeks since he won his beginner's chase at Navan. Le Sud, he's had 3 weeks as well. He won the Arkle trial on the same day at Cheltenham, and yeah, look, he's a top British novice. He was very good in that Arkle trial, and that's often a good springboard to the top 2 mile novice chases for the rest of the season. But he's short. Touch Me Not he led the last day, so it's likely he'll go forward. And his jumping at Punchestown was so good. That's a massive asset to bring to Sandown. Like those fences down the back straight, there's 7 of them, 3 in a row, and then the water, and then the 3 railway fences. It's a real jumping test for a novice, and you can see Touch Me Not, maybe if he jumps as well as he did at Punchestown, and there's no reason to think that he won't, he could have them all on the stretch by the time they get to the end of the back straight and wheel around towards the pond fence. So I'm dying to see that. Like it should be a good spectacle. But I do like Down Memory Lane as a horse. and I don't think he has to lead. I know he led the last day in the Navan Beginners Chase, but he was such a high-class hurdler last season. He was well beaten in the Champion Novice hurdle that Caldwell Potter won at the Christmas festival at Leopardstown, but that obviously wasn't his running. He didn't run again after that. And his jumping at Navan was very good. I think he can sit behind a pace that Touch Me Not will set. And look, Rubo likes to go forward as well. I know he's over fences for the first time, but he does go forward in his hurdle races, and he's interesting now, jumping fences for the first time. He's not out of it, but yeah, I like, you can say why Ludus favourite. He's a shade of odds on, but I think down memory lane could take a high rank among the 2 mile novices this season. And yeah, I think he's the most interesting one in there.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. Have a lot of respect for the Sud now, in fairness. But probably the grade 2 he won at Cheltenham maybe wasn't as strong as maybe the grade of the race might suggest. But he does look solid. But like you said, at the prices, I think down memory lane, I think Gordon was talking about him last year as being one of his better novice hurdlers. Like you said, he disappointed, but he must have had a problem after that, you'd imagine, when we didn't see him again. Touch Me Not. Look, I thought same as you. I think Sam Ewing actually said it was probably one of the best buzzes he ever got off a horse after riding him around the Kazakhstan. He just carried him to every fence, but he could probably set the race up nicely for down memory lane. I think he probably might be even better taking a lead. He'd probably be the one I'd go with there again. Rubo, obviously a very good hurdler, but like you said, could be a stiff enough ask here. But it's going to be a cracking race, and they could go like 1,000,000 miles an hour in this one. Like, when there's so many of them who like to go forward, it could be a case of who stays the best. And say down memory lane will probably stay a bit further than the 2 miles as well. So yeah, I think we're both on the same boat with that one. But we'll move on to the big race of the day in Sandown, the 3 o'clock, the Tingle Creek. Let me get it up on the screen here now. 2 mile grade 1 chase. We've got the 1-2 from last year back to reoppose here again. John Bon and Edward Stone. And an interesting one from Henry de Bromhead. Quixilios travels over, and Darragh O'Keefe comes over to take the ride. John Bon expected to come out the best here again, I suppose. He's around 8 to 15. Quixilios around 11 to 2, and Edward Stone about 15 to 2. It's about 12 to 1 bar those. I think John Bon should be pretty hard to beat here, I think, Don.
Yeah, look, he's an odds-on shot, Emma, and you can see why. He's, he was, or he is, one of the best 2 mile chases around. He's got buckets in hand on official ratings. He's got a rating of 170. I think Edwardson is next in 163, so he's got £7 in hand, and he goes well at Sandown. He's run there 4 times. He's won 4 times. He won the Henry VIII Chase on this card 2 years ago. He won the Tingle Creek last year. He won the Celebration Chase twice over the same course and distance. So there's nothing not to like about John Bon. Except the price. That's for me, it's price governed, and he just wasn't as impressive in winning the Schlerer Chase last time on his debut this season as he was in winning the Schlerer Chase last season on his debut last season. Then he went down and he won the Tingle Creek last year, and again he wasn't hugely impressive in beating Edwardson and Haddock des Obeaux. I just think he maybe shouldn't be as short as he is. Look, I'm a big John Bon fan. In fact, I think he probably should get more, or should have got more recognition than he's got. But I like Quixilios. Look, Edwardson. It's hard to see how Edwardson can reverse places with John Bon. JPR1 is interesting. He won the Holland Gold Cup last time. Thought Cello finished off his race well and got to him. And he's a player. Boot Hill, again, hard to see how he's going to reverse places with John Bon. But Quixilios, he's got buckets to find on ratings. He's got a stone to find on John Bon on ratings, but he's improving. He's only 7. He's fairly likely raced over fences. He's the Triumph Hurdle winner from a few seasons ago. He's had a bit of a kind of a truncated time of it. He hasn't really got a run at it. He didn't stay the 3 miles in the Florida Pearl Chase. Then in the Arkle last season, nothing went right. He missed the break and the horse fell. He was hampered, and it just nothing went right. But the last time at Naas, he was very good in winning the Barbertown Castle, the old popular square chase. He got out in front, got into a lovely rhythm, jumped really well, and when Marine Nacional came up and challenged him at the second last, he just went away from him again. So that forward going style, it's a big asset, I think, at Sandown over those fences. And look, Solanus might go forward as well. He's gone forward in the past John Bon races prominently, but I think Quixilios will probably lead. And if he can get into the same rhythm that he got into at Naas the last day, then he just could take a bit of catching. Look, it's, of course, John Bon's the more likely winner, but I just think if he can and Calixios needs to improve, but I think he can. Soft ground, 2 miles, ridden aggressively. That should suit him well at a track at which aggressive tactics are favoured. So yeah, I can see him maybe putting it up to John Ball.
Yeah, he should be able to get into the frame, you'd imagine. My only question mark about him is, look, maybe there is excuses, like you mentioned, not staying and a few other things, but he's just a little bit in and out. I know in the Arkle, things just went wrong completely, but he can throw in a few stinkers, which kind of makes me go off a bit. But like if he shows up, I think in the same vein of form as the horse who beat Marie National at Naas, he has to be in the mix. I'm not sure when he beat John Bond, but like you said, his forward going side. I thought Darragh O'Keefe got on particularly well with him as well. The last day, it might have been his first time riding him in Naas. Got into a lovely rhythm there from the front, but look, probably not one I'm going to have a bet in, to be honest. I imagine John Bond will be fairly hard to beat there, and he's priced up to recognise that as well. So Quick Celios maybe a squeak in it, but I'm going to stick with John Bond. But we'll go on to Aintree, I think, next from here. And the Becher Chase is the race we're going to talk about at Aintree. I think 2:07 over the national fences. Ground at Aintree, I think they're talking like it could get pretty attritional. Like I've kind of got the picture of this race last year in my mind. I think there's only 5 finishers that day, so could be a bit of a war of attrition in here. 3 vying for favouritism: King Turgeon, Gabriel, and Chianti Classico, they're all around the 4-1 mark, I think, in here. King Turgeon and Gabriel, first and third in last month's Grand Sefton, so we know they like this track. And Chianti Classico probably looks a bit of a class act in here, the ultimate winner from Cheltenham last year. He's only a 7-year-old. Don, what are your thoughts on the Becher?
Yeah, fascinating race, Emma. Look, King Turgeon, he was very good the last in the Grand Sefton, but I think stepping up in trip, he's 8 pounds higher now than he was then. I wouldn't be surprised to see Gaborio reverse placings with him. Like that said, Gaborio, he's actually 3 pounds out of the handicap, so he meets some just 4 pounds better terms, not 7 pounds better terms like he should be. But he should be, like, he won a 4-mile Hunter's Chase at Cheltenham back at their May meeting, so he should be suited by stepping up in trip. And I thought he ran really well over a trip that was surely too short from the last day, over 2 miles 5 in the Grand Sefton. So I can see him getting the better of King Turgeon. For all that David Pipe, King Turgeon's trainer, has a really good record in this race. Chianti Classico, as you said, really progressive horse. He only made his chasing debut a year and 2 months ago. He won the Ultima. He ran well at Aintree at the Grand National meeting, and in the Mile May Novices Chase that I know the way you're thinking won. And then he went to Ascot last time and he was impressive in winning that day. He's up 5 pounds for that. He's got top weight to carry, but I can see him running well. He does handle soft ground, but I'm not sure a real slog will be what he wants over the trip, over the fences. So he's short enough for all of that. Chambard, you say last year, yeah, he won a really attritional race last year. And this is a good race for repeat winners. Into the Red won it twice. Hello Bud won it twice. Walk in the Mill, Vieux-Leon Rouge, they all won it twice, and Vieux-Leon Rouge finished second as well. So it's a good race for horses going back to try and win it again, even not in the following year. And he's 12 now, Chambard, but he was obviously 11 when he won it last year. Vieux-Leon Rouge was 11 when he won it. Oscar Time was 13 when he won it. So it's a race that, you know, experience and longevity and kind of grit and determination, to me, they're bigger factors than kind of a progressive, flashy younger horse on the up. That said, just think that, like, Chambard he hasn't had a run yet this season, and the last 7 winners all had a run. Look, we know Venetia Williams can get one ready first time out, but you know, maybe the plan was to have a run. Maybe not. Maybe he's at his best when he's going there fresh, but he did have a run last year. Celebre Delaine finished 4th last year. He travelled like the most likely winner to the second last, but then just seemed to be found out for stamina. And again, if those rains come, Emma, that you mentioned, I could see the same thing happening again. But he won well at Bangor last time on his debut this season, but he got 7 pounds for that. So, and he's 12 as well, so he's off 147 now. I just think he might be vulnerable over this trip on the ground, up 7 pounds. The one I've come down, like Iron Bridge, you can see him running well as well. He loves a stamina test, but Cruise Control is when I come down. And I just think that he was a progressive chaser last season. He won that good 3-mile or 3-mile 1 furlong handicap chase at the Aintree Grand National meeting on the Mile May course. So look, it wasn't over the Grand National fences, but I still think that Mile May form going back to Aintree, even to the Grand National course, is a positive. It's left-handed, flat track. He goes well on soft ground as well. He's had a run this season. He was pretty well beaten in the hurdle race at Aintree at their meeting at the end of October, but that was over 2.5 miles, way too short for him. And actually, he ran well for a long way before he faded. So I'm sure Tom Lacey, his trainer, has had this race in mind for him for a while. That run over hurdle should bring him forward. He's got a nice mark of 140. He's only 4 pounds higher than he was when he won at the Grand National meeting. And having said that, it's a race that does favour kind of experience. He is a 7-year-old on the up, and I think he's only had 9 runs over fences. So I think he can improve again. And he stays and jumps. Yeah, I think Cruise Control. I just thought he would be shorter in the betting than he is. I thought he'd be kind of up there with King Turgeon and Kenta Classico and Gaborio at the top of the market. So I think 6 or 7 to 1. I think that's probably big enough for him.
Yeah, probably not a bad price about Cruise Control. Just kind of mentioning the rain. I think I was just looking at it. I think they're calling it soft at the moment, but there's a lot of rain forecast, I think, over the next day. And Saturday as well in Liverpool. So if it gets tough going, like I said, you kind of mentioned Chambard there. He was kind of the one that I couldn't really get away from. Look, I know he's a 12-year-old now and he's having his first start of the season, but Venetia Williams' horses, they're just absolutely flying. I think she's 32% strike rate in the last 3 weeks. Like you said, she can get one ready to go first time. Her horses, for whatever reason, just seem to love going in the slop as well. So, look, he did it well last year. He ran away with it, basically. He's only 5 pounds higher this year. He's obviously liable to a younger kind of improving horse, but they have to prove they handle these conditions as well. We know he does. He stays the trip. He liked the likely testing ground, jumps the fence as well. Lucy Turner gets on really, really well with him. I just think he's a really solid each way bet. I know he's 12 to 1, possibly 14 to 1 in places as well. So I don't think he'll be too far away if things go his way in that one. But I think we'll go back to Navan just very briefly before we switch over to Cork on Sunday. There's actually cracking action in Navan. It kind of seems to be a bit of a shame not to be focusing even completely on that. But like just looking at the maiden, I think there's 3 maiden hurdles to start off, 2 4-year-old ones. Cade Doughty could be one to keep an eye on in here. Willie actually gave him as a dark horse to follow in our Irish Racing Stable Tour last week. He said he looked very like Majborough. He think they were nearly brothers if they were walking down the yard together. In the second division of that, then you've got Echoing Silence, who cost 410,000 sterling after winning her point to point for Sam Curling. First time for Henry de Bromhead here in the honeysuckle colours, definitely one to keep an eye on. And then in the third maiden hurdle, you can probably go through plenty more in here, but Jasmine DeVoe, obviously champion bumper winner, back out here to make his first start over hurdles under Paul Townend, along with Meet Me in St. Louis, a full sister to Ballyburn for Mouse Morris and Gavin Bruder in the John Magner colours. So some really exciting ones to start off today, but I think we'll have a quick chat about the 107, Don, maybe some horses we know a little bit more about, and the grade 2 novice hurdle over 2.5 miles. The Yellow Clay. Look, I suppose Gordon was probably disappointed with his other superstar novice hurdler last year, Romeo Coolio, but the Yellow Clay, you'd imagine, should be winning this one.
Yeah, I'd say so. Emma, look, a hell of a card, as you say. Some really exciting novice hurdles there to open up proceedings, and it gets underway at 11:30. So you need to get there early. You're going to see these maiden hurdlers in action. But yeah, like the Navan novice hurdle, it's it's been a really good pointer in the past. Ashtail Bob won it, latest exhibition won it, and then went on to win the Nathaniel Lacey hurdle grade 1 at the Leopardstown Dublin Racing Festival. Next Destination won it, Death Duty won it, and last year there were 5 runners and 3 of them went and won at the Cheltenham Festival. Slade Stale and Stella Story won the Albert Bartlett. Slade Stale won the Supreme Novices, Better Days Ahead won the Martin Pipe. So it can be a really good race. And yeah, like the Yellow Clay, he's just improving, isn't he? He's doing all the right things. He won over 2 miles 6.5 furlongs at Dan Royal. Gordon said afterwards that he wouldn't mind coming back and trip. He did just that, back to 2.5, and won the Monksfield hurdle last time again, really impressively. I think Bleu de Vassy was entered here as well, but he's not in it, which isn't surprising. I kind of see Bleu de Vassy more as a 2 miler than a 2.5 miler. He's got that pace, even though he looks like more of a staying horse. But no, the Yellow Clay, he was an exciting bumper horse last year. He finished second behind Redemption Day in the champion bumper at Punchestown, having gone off well enough fancied for the Cheltenham bumper. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him. He's got form over the course, over the distance as well. The Monksfield hurdles run over the same course of distance. So yeah, I think he's the one who's going to take all the beating.
Yeah, you'd imagine so. It would be a little bit funny if my great mate managed to do it again. I don't think Gordon Elliott would talk to Oppie McMahon for quite a while, wasn't it? Tunes of Vader in the same colours beat Romeo Coolio last weekend, so they're back to try and upset the party again. But yeah, I agree. I'd be very surprised if I saw the yellow play being beaten here. Gordon thinks really highly of him, and like you said, it's a good pointer towards a good horse, and yeah, you'd imagine Yellow Cake can go on from here again. But I think we both had a bit of a fancy in the next race then, the 142 handicap hurdle. Really interesting to see intense raffles over there. Tom Gibney, his first start since winning the Irish National last year, and Bryony Foss comes over from France to take the ride in the absence of Darrell Jacob and JJ Slevin. That's definitely an eye-catching one. What did you make of this one, Don?
Yeah, it's going to be great to see him back, Emma. We haven't seen him since the Irish National. He's never run outside of Fairyhouse for Tom Gibney since he's come to Ireland. So, and the only county he's running is Meath, and that'll continue at Navan on Sunday as well, or on Saturday. So look, yeah, brilliant to see him back. Obviously, it's all roads leading towards the Grand National for him. He's racing off a hurdles mark of 141. He's been raised to a chase mark of 151 since his Irish National win. He won the Irish National of 140. So yeah, and brilliant that Bryony Frost is coming over to Navan. Yeah, that'll be great in her capacity as rider for Sonam Munir and Isaac Suaid. Good time Johnny's in there as well. Obviously good to see him there. Josh Williamson actually taking £7 off, but I think Gay Cool could go well here. She battled on really well to win the Pretemps qualifier at the Christmas Festival at Leopardstown last season. And then she ran really well at Leopardstown as well at the Dublin Racing Festival. She was only just beaten by Maxim in a 3-mile handicap hurdle there off a mark of 129. She's off a mark of 133 now, so she's only £4 higher. It didn't really happen for her at Cheltenham, and then she was left off after that by Ted Walsh. She came back on the flat at the Curragh at the end of the season, the end of the flat season. And then I thought she ran a big race in the Brown Lad Hurdle. I thought she ran better than the bare form of the runs suggests. She travelled up really well. It was a race in which the Busy Fool, Philip Rothwell's horse, made all the running, and he was impressive in winning, actually. I think he's going to the 2.5 mile Novice handicap hurdle at Leopardstown over Christmas, so he's one to keep in mind. But Gay Cool, she travelled up really well on the near side, and then maybe just the effort that she had expended in getting towards the front to the front rank in a race that was probably run to suit the prominent racers. Maybe that just told in the end. But she's a really game mare. She's still only 6, even though it seems like she's been around for ages. But soft ground, 3 miles on a furlong, that should suit her really well. And the ground is going to be softer than it was at Naas the last day. That should suit her. That should help her. Well, I think it's going to be, so maybe it's not going to be soft, but I think there's rain forecast here as well. And if that does happen, then yeah, I think she can go really well.
Yeah, you can see the case for her. It's a really really competitive contest though. One who I liked was Oscar's brother for Conor King and Daniel King. His first time handicap company. He gave Conor, I think, his first winner as a trainer last time, winning a listed novice hurdle in Cork over this trip. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him kick on again, like stepping back into handicap company for the first time. I think the form of that Cork win doesn't look too bad at all. The third horse that day went on and won her maiden hurdle on Troytown Day, beating a Gordon Elliott hot pot. She was a long way back from the front too. Pagan was second that day. Obviously, she reopposes here on similar enough terms. I think she's maybe a few pounds better off with Oscar's brother, but I just thought, like, even I think it was a 2-length win that day, but I'd say he was just idling in front. Every time she came to him, he kind of seemed to kick on again. He'd love this test of stamina, I think, and he's been kind of running, I suppose, recently on nicer ground, but like going back, even I suppose before Conor trained him, like some of his better form would have come on softer, heavy ground. So I don't think he'd have any issue with this. I'd say he's just a dour stayer. Like I think Conor's kind of saying he'd be a better chaser, but you know, this kind of a handicap hurdle, his jumping is so good as well, which would be a massive asset in a field like this. So I don't know, he could be a double figure price possibly. It could be a bit of an each way bet in that one because it's so competitive in there. But I think we'll go on now to Cork on Sunday. And we're going to start off with the grade 3 novice hurdle, I think. I'll get it up here, the 105. Yeah, the 105 over the 3 miles Field of 6 lining up here. Look in the city up the top there for Willie Mullins and Paul Townend. A lot of good horses have won this. I suppose the one that will stick out in most people's minds is the Bishop Looney for TJ Nagle back in, I think, 2008 or 2009. Very memorable winner of this race. But we've got 6 lining up here. The ground, I think, at the moment in Cork, it doesn't sound as bad as it might be in Aintree on Saturday. I think soft. There isn't an awful lot of rain forecast, so I'm not sure if it's going to be much worse than that in the day. I think Saturday and Sunday are both supposed to be nice enough days down in Cork. So I think soft ground is probably likely no worse than that. No betting in this one yet, Don, but you'd imagine the Gordon Elliott and Willie Mullins pair up the top there will be vying for favouritism in this one.
Yeah, no, it's a cracking race, Emma. It's obviously a race that it majors on stamina, 3.5 miles a furlong, a grade 3 race, and that's been the case obviously down through the years. Stamina horses have won it. If Manila Sixo, he's declared at Navan Saturday as well. If he takes his chance here, then he's a big player. He stayed on really well to get the better of Mr. Pink the last day at Thurles, and he needed every yard of the 2.7 trip that day, I thought, to get up and win it. It was his third run over hurdles, his down one over 2.5 miles. He finished second behind Potter's Charm in his previous run at Cheltenham's October meeting, and that was a big run. Potter's Charm went and won the grade 2 high hurdle next time. Now that way he probably improved. He jumped better that day, but he probably improved for that. But he's a big player now in the novice hurdle division, and Manila Sixo wasn't beaten that far by him. And the third horse, First Confession of Joe Tizard's, came out and won his maiden hurdle at Ascot next time. But look in the city, he's only had 2 runs over hurdles. He stayed on really well the last day just to get the better of Millforce. The Millforce came out and finished 4th behind Intense Approach in that Cheltenham race at the October meeting that John McConnell seems to always win. Trains Intense Approach as well. And Oscar's brother, who you mentioned earlier on, he was third in that race, and he went on and beat Pagan next time. And the form of that race, as you mentioned, is looking really strong with Tom Hogan's mare coming out and winning next time, Cast a Spell. So that it's good, solid form. It did take look in the city. He really had to keep on to get the better of Millforce, but he was stepping up in trip from 2 miles to 3 miles. So it was a significant step up in trip, but he proved that day that he could see out the trip. His dam won over 1.5 miles from the flat, so there's plenty of stamina in his pedigree. And the fact that Willie Mullins saw enough in him to step him up to 3 miles, that's obviously significant. So yeah, and obviously his win the last day was over Sunday's Cork course and distance. So at Cork, yeah, I think he's going to take a bit of beating.
Yeah, I can see the case from you kind of mentioned Manila Sixo is in the handicap hurdle on Saturday, but to be honest, I'd be surprised if he didn't take up the engagement here. He looks to have a real winning chance in a grade 3 novice rather than going to quite a competitive looking handicap hurdle. You kind of mentioned his form there. He came from the point-to-point field last year, and he kind of had a really quick start to life, I suppose. He's had a few runs over hurdles in relatively quick succession. He won his maiden hurdle, I think, in October. Then he went over to Cheltenham, like you said, took on Potter's Charm. I thought that was a really, really good run. You kind of mentioned it already, but although he never really looked like beating Potter's Charm, I suppose it was over, I think, 2 miles 3 or 2 miles 4 that day, which would be way shorter than his optimum. And he did make him work, even from being a bit off the pace early on. I thought that was a good run. Went on then to Thurles, like you said, and needed every yard of it. I think conditions today could be right up his alley. He's a horse. I really like his attitude, to be honest. He puts his head down, he gallops, he jumps well. I'd say stepping up and trip will probably make him even better and better again. And he seems to be kind of improving rapidly. But yeah, I think just on that form of that Cheltenham run in particular, I'd say he could take a bit of beating here. It'll be interesting to see what kind of price he opens up at for this one. Obviously no prices yet, but I think I'd take Manila Sixo. I'm hoping he'll take his chance in this one rather than the handicap hurdle on the Saturday. But we'll go on to the next one in Cork. We're going to chat about the 140, the Mayor's Novice Chase grade 2 race. Eight lining up here, which is good. We get 3 places each way. Historically, it's been a very, very good pointer towards a mare for the Cheltenham Festival. Impervious, Concertista, LMA, Shattered Love all won this race in past renewals. Where do you start with this one? Look, I suppose, again, no betting for this, but I'd probably hazard a guess and say Only by Night for Gavin Cromwell is likely to be the market leader, probably closely followed by Nara, who was really impressive winning her beginner's chase in Gorham Park last time. Zenta, another really interesting one, although for Willie Mullins, looks to be the second string JP McManus, but has Paul Townend on board, which doesn't make her look like much of a second string at all, I suppose. Don, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's a hell of a it's a hell of a race, this, isn't it? I mean, like the Roll of Honor, as you said, it's star-studded, and they've all been kind of short price until last year when Conor O'Keefe won it with Silent Approach. Zenta was actually sent off as, actually she wasn't favourite, she was just second favourite behind her Moneymaker, but and she's back again, Zenta. Conor O'Keefe fields Kilbarry Saint, who she was pretty well beaten behind Nara at Gorham Park the last day, so it's hard to see how she's going to reverse placings with her. Nara was good, her jumping was good, and actually she'd been jumping well at Sligo the time before that when she fell, until she fell. But she jumped well at Gorham Park the last day, not surprising, obviously, for a Henry de Bromhead trained mare or filly. But she won nicely the last day from Dam Rapide. But I just liked what Only by Night did the last day at Tipperary and how she did it. She's a 125 rated hurdler. She's from the family of Summersby, who was a better chaser than hurdler, albeit didn't have that much time over hurdle, but he was a high-class chaser for Henrietta Knight and Mick Shannon then after. And Only by Night, like she took on the geldings the last day at Tipperary and she won well. Now Mirazor West, he did jump out to his right. He didn't do himself any favours. Westport Cove looked like his stable companion was coming to get him at the second last, but all the while Keith Donoghue was stalking in behind and Only by Night, and her jumping was very good. She travelled really well just behind the leaders. He just had to squeeze her along a little bit on the run around the home turn, but after that she picked up really well and she came right away from her rivals on the run. I thought it was a really impressive performance on her first run over fences. So she could progress now and take a good high rank among the top mares, novices. And it's, it's having beaten the geldings the last day, back against mares now, that should be a positive for her. And if she can jump as well as she did then yeah, I think she's going to take a lot of beating. Nara is a big danger, and a Law of Her Own. I thought a Law of Her Own might have run better the last day at Clonmel. Look, Pink in the Park, maybe she improved and won really well, but Law of Her Own is an interesting mare for me of Peter Fahey's. And Zenta, if she could just jump fences a bit better, she's obviously a classy hurdler. She was one of the top juvenile hurdlers of her generation. But no, I'm with you, and Only by Night, I think she'll probably be favourite. Depending on what price she is, I guess that will determine whether she's a bet or not. But I just think she's a nice mare and worth following now.
Yeah, I'd agree. You can imagine she'll be overly short, like you mentioned, like Zenta and Nara being in there, like should be an open enough looking betting affair. But yeah, I agree everything you said. It's her jumping. I thought beating those couple of geldings, and there was a good mare in that race as well. Like form of that looks quite strong. Zenta, like I was actually a massive fan of her last year, to be honest. Like it was kind of interesting that they win chasing. I suppose she didn't jump her hurdles very well as a juvenile, if I remember right. But I didn't think she actually jumped too bad in Cork that day. Like she wasn't maybe she wouldn't poke your eye out with her jumping, I suppose. But I thought she jumped well enough, and maybe she just wasn't put into the race completely after the front two went quite hard, I think, off memory. But she went back hurdling then, which was a bit strange. She obviously ran really well in the county. She was fourth, I think. She wasn't beaten too far. And then to go to, was it Ballinrobe? She had another beginner's chase start back in May, and she jumped awful that day. Like she was up in the air and going kind of not straight at all. But interesting that they sent her back chasing. I was surprised that she went back hurdling, to be honest. Look, I think, if she can build on, and she showed promise, I think, in it last year. She jumped well enough, and obviously, like you said, she was a Grade 1 winning juvenile. But she has a couple of questions to answer, I suppose, after a few kind of funny runs last year. So yeah, I think I'll stick with Only by Night as well. She looks a bit more of a straightforward proposition there for Gavin Cromwell and Sean Flanagan. She could be one, like you said, to progress as a chaser. But we'll go on to the feature then in Cork, the 2:15, the Hilly Way Chase. And like we were saying, while it's mostly Willie Mullins in here, it's definitely a cracker, and it's good to get the 8 runners again for the each way betting. If there's any each way punters out there, but looks a cracker, I suppose. And Ergamine is the obvious starting point. We haven't seen him since April 2023. Dual champion chase winner. He's well used to coming down to Cork for the Hilly Way, but this looks like a tough enough contest for him on his comeback run. Don, Willie hasn't made it easy for him.
No, he hasn't, by putting his stable companions in as well. Yeah, no, he's probably going to be a bigger price than he's ever been for Hilly Way Chase on Sunday.
Yeah, I can imagine
he'll
so.
Be a shade of odds on, maybe, as opposed to long odds on. But like Willie Mullins, he's won 9 of the last 10 renewals of the Hilly Way. The only one he didn't win was when great field fell early on in the 2018 renewal. That was won by Castlegrace Paddy of Pat Fahey's, interestingly ridden by Paul Tennant. But yeah, look, it's going to be great to see Energumene back. We haven't seen him since April last year, so he's 10 years old now, rising 11. So can he be as good as he was then? Probably not quite. Can he be good enough to win a Hilly Way Chase? Quite possibly. But like a lot depends on how forward he is, Emma. But you know, this is his race. It's his starting point. It's the race he won in 2021 and 2022. And it's brilliant that he's coming back. And as you say, brilliant that Willie Mullins is fielding all those horses against him, including Dino Blue. Fernie Hollow is going to be good to see him back as well. I haven't seen him since February. And Banbridge for me is a really interesting horse, and I was just disappointed the last day with him with his run on the Fortria Chase. And you know, maybe it's a seasonal debut, and maybe 2 miles is too sharp from these days. I'm sure it is, even though he did win over 2 miles. He won the Punchestown Champion Chase over 2 miles when it didn't look likely going over the second last, but he really stayed on strongly. Just got up to beat Captain Guinness by a neck. I kind of have him in mind maybe as a King George horse. I know Joseph said earlier in the season that he had that in mind for him as well. So he kind of, like when he won the Martin Pipe Hurdle, I thought he'd be a staying novice the following season, and then he went and won the Arkle Trial at Cheltenham over 2 miles in his first run back. So he's got pace. I just think he might improve again, stepping up in trip, and 2 miles might just be on the sharp side for him. But I'd be interested to watch him here, and hopefully he'll run well, put his Fortria Chase run behind him, and then maybe build up from now towards a crack at King George.
Yeah, just getting the first sight of the prices here now. Banbridge 18 to 1. Are you surprised he's so big? I didn't think he'd be that price now, to be honest.
Is he 18 to 1?
Yeah, it's just open up there now. I just got the first sight of prices here on the screen.
Take it.
that seems like a mad price for him.
Yeah,
I mean, you made the case there. That seems crazy. Yeah, an Energumene here. Now these are just the very early prices. 8 to 13 favourite. Dino Blue around 8 to 1. Fernie Hollow 13 to 2. Look, yeah, Energumene, I think at his best he was rated, or was it 175 or 176 or something? Like, is he going to run to that level now after over a year off as a 10-year-old? No, but like, does he need to, like, even if he was 15 or 20 pounds below his best, like, he probably should be winning this, really. But there's always that question mark, I suppose, after such a long layoff. Like, do they get back? And you know, Willie probably wouldn't have been drilling him either for this race. Like, imagine it'll be more of a stepping stone than anything else. Am I willing to take him on? There was another question. Dino Blue is one I'm a massive fan of. Like, she's a very, very good filly in her own right. She's beaten the boys before in Grade 1 company, but just the way they're weighted, like, I mean, she's rated 157 and she's to give an Energumene £3. Like, an Energumene at his best, like I said, he's rated 175. Like, so he'd have to be a long, long way below that for her to get the better of him realistically. Fernie Hollow, another really, really interesting runner. Like, I think Willie was only putting his hair out when someone asked him about him at the media morning last week. On his day, he's obviously brilliant, but he's never really been in this company, I suppose, over fences anyway, at least. So it's a massive one for him with Patrick Mullins on board. It's probably going to be a watching brief. Look, Banbridge actually 14 to 1 straight away from there. He's not 18s anymore, just to change on the screen. Look, he might be the each way bet. He seems to be a ridiculous price for him opening up at that price, like a Grade 1 winner over the trip. The ground might be the question mark, maybe, although it's not going to be very, very bad in Cork. It's probably going to be soft, which Joseph has kind of reiterated a few times. He's not his favourite way to go on. But yeah, look, I don't know. I don't think I'm willing to take him on, but I can definitely see a case for Banbridge each way. 14 to 1 there now on screen. Probably not a bad price about him. Is that the way you feel as well, Don?
As you mentioned, the ground is a concern. He's a much better horse on better ground, and maybe the thinking is he might not even run if the ground is really soft. But I don't think I'll be backing him, Emma, but I'd like to see him running well for a long way. Just putting his Fortria Chase run behind him and then, you know, building on from there. But look, it's a cracking race. Blue Lord, we haven't seen him for a while either. He's back, appreciated. He's back in as well. Hunter's Yarn has shaped like he was going to be one of the really good novice chasers last season, and was well enough beaten by a stable companion, Gaelic Warrior, in the Arkle, but he's still a talented horse. So it's a deep race. And Energumene, you kind of want to see Energumene going and winning it, don't you? I do anyway. And the ground should be in his favour. But I just hope that Banbridge can run well.
Yeah, look, I suppose when you have the 3 places each way, just looking at the prices, we didn't have these before. Like, even appreciated there 14-1. Look, obviously it's probably a bit shorter than his optimum trip, but he goes really, really well fresh. He won't mind a bit of softer ground. Like, he's running the John Durkin last year, kind of stick out in your mind. He obviously didn't go on from there, but he obviously goes well fresh. Like, I didn't think he'd be 14-1 for this now, but it's a good opportunity, I suppose, for an East Ray punt with the 8 runners. Hopefully Banbridge will stay in there to keep it at that, but probably a bit of a question mark, I suppose. But look, it'll be a brilliant contest, and just looking forward to seeing Nargamine back on track, hopefully, anyway, at least. But I think we've covered most of the big action of the weekend in the UK and Ireland. But before we go, Donn, I think we'll both give a nap of the weekend.
Yeah, I think I'll go back to cruise control at Aintree, Emma, in the Becher Chase. I just, it's not really an each way race anymore. There were 17 entries at 5-day stage, but it's whittled down to 12 or 13 now. So it's not really an each way race, but I still think around 7-1 or maybe even 6-1 about him. I think that's fair.
Very good. I'm going to go with Manila 6. So I'm hoping he'll go for that Stayers Novice Hurdle in Cork on Sunday. And I imagine he will when it's kind of looks like a winnable enough race. Not sure what price he'll be, but with the presence of the Winnie Mullins horse in there, you can't imagine he'd be too short. I just think stepping up in trip, his form looks strong. The ground, the trip, everything kind of seems to be in his favour. He's just a horse with a really good attitude as well. I think he can progress as time goes on. So he is my nap of the weekend. But we're wrapped up there, Donn. I didn't realise how long this was going on for. If you hit the clock now. But thanks very much for all your contributions, and thanks everyone for tuning in. If you like the content, make sure and like and subscribe to the channel, because we'll have plenty more coming up over the next couple of weeks on the build up to Christmas.